Boy, am I happy to be here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mary Grace Show. I'm Mary Grace, and we have a wonderful, wonderful guest with us today. This is episode 27 of Spy Talk with Sam. Can you believe it, Sam? Sam
Well,
Faddis here. He's one of our favorites. You may recognize him from frequent appearances on War Room, on Frank Gaffney. He is indeed a former spy. Actually not an analyst, but somebody who's actually spent time out in the field. And he has a vast array of experience and expertise. He's also a veteran, and he is a, a lawyer um, by training. And he's worked in political administrations as well. So he's absolutely one of our favorites. Welcome back to the show, Sam. It's great to see you.
it is great to be here. It's been too long. We got to find a way to remove that lawyer thing from my bio. I don't know that
Well,
everything else I'm cool with. The CIA is minor, but the
yeah.
lawyer thing, wow, that really sticks in your throat, doesn't it?
Yeah, it helps though, because you help us to navigate some of the things that we're seeing,
Yeah,
particularly the lawfare that has been
yeah.
waged against some of our favorite people, including Steve Bannon, who I believe is back at the controls
Yes, he
today.
is. Yep.
I actually had a dream about him last night. So I think he's been on a lot of people's mind. One of the good people who was literally sent to prison by
Yeah.
a regime that wants to silence
Yep.
their political enemies. Everything that the other side is telling us that Trump is going to do, they are actively doing.
Yep.
So there's the irony of that. But Sam, you've got a lot going on. You've got your hands in a lot of different activities right now, including getting Pennsylvania over the line for President Trump
Right.
with the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition. Let's start with that and tell us how things are going. You've got some amazing groups up there. I've been with your group up in Erie, Pennsylvania,
Yep.
just for a start. Tell us how things are going out there and what we can expect with the election.
Well, you got a whole almost universe of groups. You have all the groups that are formally part of the coalition, but also just all sorts of other entities in MAGA world, for lack of a better term. I mean, you just got a lot of patriotic America First people across the whole state that have just gone all in on this campaign. And it is a group effort, and they're doing amazing work across the state. And we're going into a lot of communities that are not traditional. Well, not the communities that people traditionally think are Republican, because this has really become a people versus the self-appointed elite fight. How's it going? Well, we're tired, but we're going to push across the finish
Yeah.
line. As the coach used to say, the closer you get to the tape, the faster you run, and you don't stop running until you get across the finish line.
Right.
So that's our approach. How's it looking? Good. I mean, look, nothing I say here should convince anybody watching this that they can go sit down, turn on the tube, and put their feet up. I started by saying this: we have to maintain the momentum. But right now, the people are speaking in Pennsylvania. I think she's going to lose, and I think she's going to lose by a significantly wider margin than she wants to pretend.
Mm.
I just came. What's today? That'll give you an
Today's
idea.
the 20 wait,
Today's Tuesday, right?
29. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, that'll give you an idea of how my world is right now, because every day is just blending into the next one, because there are
Yep.
no days off. So Sunday night, 2 days ago now, whatever, myself and other folks. This is not a Sam thing. This is, as I said, this is a team thing. But I was down in Hazleton. It's about an hour and a half south of me, and Hazleton is an old anthracite coal mining town that was, up until not too long ago, 3/4 Italian Americans, all families that came here early 1900s, late 1800s.
Mhm.
Pennsylvania is filled with towns like that.
Okay.
It's now about 2/3 Hispanic, overwhelmingly folks from the Dominican Republic, smattering of other
Interesting.
folks, but mostly Dominicans,
Yeah.
who have come here really with exactly the same attitude that the Italian Americans had, or Polish Americans, or any wave to start. They came here for freedom, liberty, opportunity to build new lives. They're incredibly hardworking people. They're very family oriented. They're
Mhm.
overwhelmingly Catholic, and not Catholic as a label,
Right.
as in they
Devout. They're devout.
they are devout. They
Yeah.
believe. They live the faith. They are in church on Sunday, but more than that, it is their lives, and they're serious
Mhm.
about it. So, which is to say, they have no truck, as we used to say, with the Democratic
Mm.
agenda, right? That
Yeah.
all of this wokeism and no borders and tolerance for crime and the idea that they're supposed to support people who won't work, none of this sits well with them. And,
Mhm.
of course, the racists in charge of the Democratic Party have this attitude that if you're brown or black, I don't know, I don't even know exactly what the heck that's supposed to mean most of the time, but in
Yeah.
any event,
Yeah.
that you are somehow required to swear allegiance to them and do what you're told. These folks, and I'm using Hazleton as an example, but this is happening all across the state. They
Mhm.
didn't get the memo and they don't care. They're sick of this. They're fed up with it. They're rejecting it. So I expect the vote totals there. So I mean, so in other words, I'm deliberately focusing not on
Mhm.
the Dems want to make this into it's a white people versus everybody else thing.
Right, right.
Okay, well, that's not
Okay.
what's happening in the real world, and this
Yeah.
is not just small towns and farms. This is the state, and they're saying, we reject you. And
Mhm.
to a large extent, you're seeing the same thing in the African American community. I don't expect as much movement in this election cycle
Mhm.
because the Democrats have spent a lot more time insinuating themselves into that community, if that's
Right.
the right term. But I still think that when it's all said and done and the dust settles, I expect over half the Hispanics in the state of Pennsylvania to vote Republican. I
Wow.
expect a majority of Hispanics to vote Republican. And
It's
I don't think
amazing.
that'll be true in the Black community, but
Mhm.
the numbers will still shock everyone. Well, they won't shock everyone. They'll shock the Democratic establishment. And
Yeah.
what we're seeing is a fundamental realignment politically in the country. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody who
Mhm.
follows politics knows the Democratic coalition. I don't know what's the right word for it. Their math is all based on they have to get like 90% of the vote in the Black community.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
just simple arithmetic. If you look
Mhm.
at the way they build their coalition, that's the case. Okay, well, they're not going to be.
Interesting.
They
Yeah.
won't be anywhere close to that. So not only
Mhm.
do I expect her to lose, but when the dust settles, I think they're going to have to look at this on the other side and say, we drove this thing into the ground. Like the American people have
Yeah.
completely rejected us.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's a reporter from I think the Daily Wire, Clayton Cabot Phillips,
Hmm.
and he's been doing on the ground actual reporting, and he spent a full day down in Georgia in Cabot
Hmm.
County, Clayton County, which is 70% Black voters,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and he came out of there saying that by his estimation, he talked to tons of people all day long. Where are you on this? And there were people who were just fully in the tank for Kamala.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing that he said, or that he discovered, was that even the ones who were voting for her, he said there's a change in perception of Trump, that people are no longer rabidly afraid of him or hating him. There are even people who said, there are some things that he's doing that I actually like. I'm
Yep.
just not ready to vote for him.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge shift. It represents, like you're saying, the idea that people are feeling more free to think for themselves and to be vocal about it. And this is something that Tucker Carlson touched on beautifully at the rally the other night in Madison Square Garden. He
Right.
said, President Trump gave us the courage to
Yeah.
speak out against the machine.
Yep.
And I think we're starting to see that even in the Black community. And there were many who this young man talked to in Georgia who see right through what's happening. They said this campaign, the Harris campaign, expects us to be stupid. They expect
Hmm.
us not to understand, not to research. They think that we're ignorant, and they just expect us to fall in line. There were some people who said that in the Black community there.
Right.
And he came away thinking that it was going to be about a 50-50 split, which is historically unheard of. And so, we'll see what happens. I'm hopeful. I'm prayerful about this. I understand that, Philly, inner city has been on lock by the Democrats for years, and pretty sure we know why. But if you guys can pull out the numbers to override that, which is what we're dealing with here in Virginia as well. We have Northern Virginia, which is the extension of DC
Yes.
leftists. They're on the government payroll. So, of course, they want to vote for the incumbent party. But then we also have cities in this state that
Hmm.
are predominantly Black, that have traditionally been voting Democrat. But
Hmm.
the thing I think that's really changing is that the Democrats no longer have the monopoly on being the party of the working person. And that, I think, is where they are afraid. They are starting to see that they're no longer the party of the middle class, the working class, the regular people, and they can no longer um, position the Republican Party as the party of the wealthy and the elites, because they've really taken over that spot. Right?
Yep. That's
All
that's
the celebrities, Hollywood, all the elites are aligned with the Democrat Party.
yeah. Well, look,
Um,
that's the fight. The fight. The all sorts of folks in the mass media and all the people aligned on the left want to paint this picture that we're all tribalized, and they also want to, it's black people against white people, against brown people, and all this nonsense.
yeah.
And they also want to keep peddling this fiction that your Democratic Party is the party of the working man. Okay, as I've said before, my grandfather was a Democratic congressman in the 30s and 40s, and he became a very successful guy, but he got there through a lot of hard work and did a lot of
Mhm.
manual labor and risked his life in a couple of wars along the way. So for him, that's what that party was. Well, that party died. That
Yep.
party is gone. The party of John F. Kennedy doesn't exist anymore. The populist working man's party, as Trump has shaped it, is the populist party. I mean,
Yeah.
it is the party of the working man against the party of, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and these guys with more money than anybody's ever had in history, and
Mhm.
they want to rule the country. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of folks, there are still sizable chunks of people that haven't awakened to that will
Yeah.
vote for her because they still buy this crap.
Right,
But
identity politics, really. We need a woman.
yeah, they will, and in fact, I
Yeah.
suspect honestly that when you look at a female, reasonably affluent, white suburban women, my expectation would be the majority of them are going to vote for Kamala Harris, as terrifying as that is.
I
But,
think, yeah, the white
but
liberal women. I don't know about the moms.
well,
Or
I mean, I don't expect all of them. I'm not saying there's
Mhm.
unanimity. A lot of people have awakened, and
Yeah.
as we both know, and we've talked about this so many times. I mean, a lot of elements, particularly of the woke agenda, have fired up moms. I always
Yeah.
describe in Pennsylvania, man, the shock troops of the MAGA movement on the ground in PA are moms. When you go,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been out on the street. We're doing a protest where you got 100 people waving signs. 60% of the folks are moms and grandmas who are
Yep.
out there saying, you, keep your hands off my kids. So
Yeah.
I'm not talking everybody's going to, but I still think
Yeah.
she's going to have following it.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people don't amazingly enough, a lot of people still don't get it.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to be disparaging, because people have, you're trying to pay the rent and you're working 2 jobs and you're trying to get the transmission fixed in the truck. You don't have all day to sit around and try to read the news. You're busy trying to feed your family.
Mhm.
So again, I'm not being disparaging, but there are substantial numbers of folks that still don't understand what's going on.
Mhm.
In Philly, we've done a lot of work, we being not just the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition formally, but all the associated groups,
Mhm.
allies.
Right.
Do I expect the majority of black people in Philadelphia to vote for Trump? I don't. I think that's a bridge too far in one election cycle. Do I think the percentage of black people that will vote for Trump in Philadelphia will shock the Democratic Party? 100% I do. I
Mhm.
think they are going to see percentages, particularly of black men, voting for Trump in Philadelphia. And they're going to look at that and say, if we can't fix this, this is the end of the Democratic
Mhm.
Party. And the only way they can fix it, of course, is to stop pushing the agenda they're pushing, right? You can't.
Right.
The problem is that the problem is there's something they still don't get on the other side. The issue is not Trump. I mean, Trump is the standard bearer in
Yeah.
all mad respect, and the man has come, this close to death, and nobody works harder. But he's the standard bearer for a movement, and those
Yes.
people are behind him because he's speaking truth and he's fighting for them. It's the
Yeah.
issues, man. And
Yep.
if when Trump finishes his next term, God willing, his movement won't be gone.
Yep.
When
Yeah,
J.D. Vance
exactly.
is running for president in 4 years, the Dems are going to have the same problem they have today. The
Mhm.
American people have rejected them.
Yes, yes. I think well, and look at who's in Trump's coalition now.
Yes.
This is what
Yes.
has them so afraid
Yes.
that people that I never ever would have thought would have moved over into Team Trump are now there. Tulsi Gabbard,
Yep.
RFK Jr.,
Yep.
Elon Musk, and really what we're looking at is a centrist populist movement. We're
Yes.
not looking at an extreme movement,
No.
even though the media elites would have you think that what we are doing is extreme. It's not. It's only extreme to them because they see striped pajamas and jail bars in their future. So that's why they think it's extreme. And most of the people who have come out in support of Kamala, I dare say, are probably on the Epstein and Diddy party and client list. And so they have their own self-interest at stake. That's what I think is happening here. Now, I want to talk about what your thoughts are about an incoming Trump administration. We keep hearing that first of all, Trump is payrolling his transition team on his own dime.
Mhm.
A couple of things I found out. He's not getting the daily briefings, presidential daily briefings, and he's funding his own transition team.
Mhm.
Um, I assume to keep the deep state out of his business. And can you talk a little bit about that? I think you probably have more familiarity with the
Mhm.
process than I do.
Right. Well, I have been. I'm hesitating because I have been involved in some conversations. Am involved in some conversations in Washington D.C. and so about how this is going. And so I'm going to try to answer you directly and candidly, and with the understanding up front that there are some things that are confidential and I just can't talk about at this point.
That's
Okay.
why we call it spy talk.
Yeah, well, so exactly. So I'm gonna. So no pre. If you think I'm dancing around a few things, that's because I'm dancing around a few things. That's
We understand.
all right. So when Trump arrived in 2016, and everybody who's involved in this process will admit this, and I think Trump himself would admit this. He arrived and he basically had no team with him beyond a handful of individuals. And he certainly didn't have the roster of thousands of people that you need to. The president needs to make like 4,000 appointments that take effect the first day, roughly. That's
Yeah.
the beginning of the process, not the end
Right.
of the process. Well, he sure as heck didn't have 4,000 people lined up to fill all these positions. He's a very, very smart guy, but he was not coming from the Washington scene. And understanding how that beast really works
Yeah.
is a different thing from understanding it needs fixed. He didn't have the plan. There was no policy document for each piece of that giant creature of what are we doing with defense? What are we doing with intelligence? What are we doing with name anything? Okay, that is not where we are in 2024. We are in a fundamentally, we're absolutely completely different place. So there are
Good.
a lot of very, very smart
Yeah.
people in DC, not just smart, but people who are in the right place politically. In other words, they're committed to the America First movement, but they also have enough experience in the government to know how it works. Because you kind of have, not kind of, you have to have both. You can want to fix the machine, but if you don't know how the machine works, it's really hard.
Right. Right.
And so there are a lot of those people. There's a lot of really intense policy documents being drafted. So, for instance, America First Policy Institute, which is one of the core pieces of this, produced a book a few months ago just on national security, an entire book. I wrote the chapter on the intelligence community for that book, and everybody else who wrote a chapter for that book. And keep in mind, that's the publicly released book. That's not that's not necessarily every detail,
Okay.
which is not to mean that there's some evil secret agenda. It's just to say the average person doesn't want to read a 500-page chapter on in the intelligence community. You got to bring that down to something that's readable for people. Any event, that kind of work is going on and is very, very advanced. So what are you going to see? You're going to see Trump arrive with a lot of really capable people. And whereas before, often he was forced to make appointments of people he did not know, recommended by people he barely knew. Now everybody who's at the core of this is somebody he trusts, knows, has the background, but also is in the right place politically. Because as a friend of mine termed this the other day, this is a revolution, or maybe correctly, a counter-revolution. That's where we are, people. We are fighting against people that have perverted the government, perverted the republic, and we're trying, and we have to fight back. So that's, I'm very encouraged. I think you are going to see him arrive, him name his cabinet, and then name a whole host of other people right away. And from day one, morning one, you're going to see massive things changing. Now, I also think, well, I know that the other side is not just going to take a nap and go sit on the sidelines while we do that. So while you are remaking CIA, FBI, and everybody else, all of the guys on the other side of this are going to be doing everything they can to try to stop you.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Did I adequately answer your question while simultaneously
yes,
bobbing and weaving around the things I can't talk about?
I think that was a good answer. I do have some questions about I guess the period between November 5th and January 20th. And I think that is a good place to pick up after we hear a word from some of our sponsors. So we're going to take a quick break here. Don't go away, everybody. This might be a chance just to stretch and share it on every channel that you're watching on. Leave a comment. And if you haven't followed us on any of our platforms, please do that. Also, please make sure that you are on our mailing list. Go to marygracemedia.com and sign up for the mailing list, because if you were on that mailing list, you would have gotten an email today letting you know that we were going live with our friend Sam. And that's where you can also keep track of me if something happens with our friend Zuckerbuck and the people that run the Google. They may not want us to be around, but we will still be on email. And that's info@marygracemedia.com. That's my email address, but go to the website, marygracemedia.com, and sign up. But in the meantime, I also want you to know that we have some incredible affiliate partners who actually give us commissions here on the show when you purchase from them. We're going to hear a couple of messages from those affiliate partners, and we will be right back. Please consider jumping in and taking advantage of these offers. Here we go. More now than ever on healthcare, and we're sicker than almost anybody in the world. We've put our trust in a system that's completely let us down. Dr. Troy Sproul and the team at Synapse Center for Health and Healing have changed all that. They are a functional medicine clinic, and they get to the root cause of what's made you sick in the first place. Once they do that, they give you solutions to help you get out of that. This is the way that medicine was meant to be practiced, and this is what they're doing. They're changing the entire system from the inside out, one person at a time, and you could be one of those people. And so when you're working with the team at Synapse, they're giving you solutions and not just prescriptions. That's a game changer for me. When you set up a free discovery call with Synapse, you're starting on a journey of healing. You're starting on a journey of getting answers. And that's why I've partnered with them, because I want you to be healthy. I want your family to be healthy. I want you to have all of the resources that you need to steward the body and the health that God's given you. Go to officialsynapse.com and tell them Mary Grace sent you. That's Official Synapse, SYNAPSE.com.
This is my brother. I'm Nace, and we're at the Grid Down Chowdown. And this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with. Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
What it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code MaryGrace. Listen, in case you didn't get those websites, you can go directly to my website, marygracemedia.com, click on shop, and you will find our friends at Grid Down Chowdown. You will also find officialsynapse.com, plus a whole bunch more partners that we have. We also have Dr. Troy Sproul coming on the show this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a live Q&A. Everybody loves when he's on the show, so please bookmark it. And if you do have questions, make sure you join the live. That's the way you get your questions answered. We don't take the questions after the fact. You can still watch, you just can't get the questions in. So we will see you back here at 10:30 a.m. on Saturday. But in the meantime, I have more questions for Sam. We are live with Sam Faddis for Spy Talk with Sam the Spy. Sam, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is going to happen between November 5th and January 20th? We've heard so much speculation. The Democrats have basically come out and said there's no way they're allowing Trump to take office. What do you see happening? And do you know for sure that Trump's legal team has things in place to help move the process along? I think he's going to win. I just wanna know if he's actually gonna get to be sworn in.
Right. Well, I mean, let me start with the caveat that I don't make any assumptions about any kind of goodwill or good faith on the other side. So
Right.
I'm not what I'm going to say is not based on, oh, I think they'll just decide to do the right thing. Okay, so I think she's going to lose. I think she's going to lose badly. I think in the aftermath of this, what you're going to realize, which is not really surprising if you think about it, is that her entire campaign was largely built on creating the fiction that she had sizable support.
Yeah.
So you get the news media and the polling institutions. You know, we all know we're long past the point where we're talking about a little bit of slant or a little bit of spin. These people will lie bald-faced and they will erase entire stories without batting an eye. And I think that to the extent there was a plan, that was the plan. We will just lie to the American people through every organ we have,
Yeah.
all the mass media, all the polling outfits, which are just as fraudulent, Google, everybody else.
Mhm.
And we will create the fiction that she is actually a serious candidate, that the American people are seriously behind her, in the hopes
Yeah.
that the people will then follow that. They will be buffaloed. That's my expectation, that she will not only lose, but that she will frankly lose very badly. Based on that, I think do I still think there will be plenty of lunatics to be found? Yes. Expect crazy
Yeah.
people to appear in the streets? Yes. Do I expect Black Lives Matter to just vaporize? No. Or Antifa or any. There will still be crazy people. I'm sure AOC will be one of them, shrieking things. But I think the hard-nosed people behind the curtains, the ones who told everybody to get out of the race in 2020 and made Biden the nominee, and
Mhm.
then this time told Biden to get the heck out and made her the nominee, I believe they will say, bridge too far to contest this election.
Okay.
You have no choice. And then I think they will, and they're already doing this,
Mhm.
focus on attempting to prevent Trump and the MAGA movement from actually accomplishing their agenda in DC.
Yeah.
And I am hearing from folks inside various bureaucracies already that you have senior people. There's not just a couple of guys in the lunchroom, senior folks in positions of authority in major federal agencies, and they are already shifting into resistance mode.
Right.
When the new director of CIA shows up and begins to make decisions, they will not simply salute and say,
Mhm.
we hear you. They
Right.
will move into attempting to prevent the agenda from being implemented.
Okay.
And I use CIA as an example, obviously, because my familiarity there, but that
Mhm.
will apply to every federal agency.
Can we get rid of those people?
Yes. Well, you know, yes, you can. The ease with which you can,
Holdovers, right?
huh?
They're called holdovers. Is that
Yeah, sure. But here's the thing. Depending on the
Mhm.
agency and depending on how it is structured and was created, and this gets into the kind of minutia where I got to put on my legal hat, right?
Okay.
The answer varies from agency to agency. So, for instance, again, to use CIA as an example,
Mhm.
just because I worked there for a long time, everybody in the Central Intelligence Agency works at the pleasure of the President of the United States.
Okay.
So the President of the United States and or his appointee as director can fire everyone
Mhm.
they need to fire, and it is relatively straightforward. Some
Okay.
agencies are like that. Other agencies, you're going to run directly into civil service issues, and you're going to need your smart lawyers with you to make, in other words, the people at the very top, those appointees, it's pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
After that, when you really get down to the level with that you have to get to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you're going to have to be smart about how you remove them.
Okay.
But you can certainly shove them aside. You can certainly take them out of specific positions.
So you can move them into an inconsequential role, for
100%.
example.
You got a new
Okay.
desk. It's over there. Sit in the corner. You're still on the payroll and we're still paying you. You're no longer running this shop. And this is the thing, right? I
Okay.
mean, when you replace the director, let's shift, stop talking about CIA all the time. Talk about the Bureau. When
Sure.
you put somebody new in charge of the Bureau, that one person is not going to fix the FBI all by themselves.
Right. Right.
They have to then, every one of those people in positions like that then has to start going all the way down the chain to several layers and replacing people to really root this out. That has to happen. So by the time you're done, this is back to needing thousands and thousands of names. By the time you're done, you don't need a cabinet of 12 people or whatever it is now. You literally need thousands of people just to get started on this process. I am hopeful, by the way, because I'm sure folks listening to this feel the same way. I am hopeful, by the way, that you're not only talking about changes in personnel and reforming the way they work. I think you're talking about some of these agencies going away entirely or being severely reduced in size. So the one that everybody talks about is Department of Education as a first step, eliminating it entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have Elon, who is going to be heading up DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. And I believe that there's going to be massive cuts to entire departments. And I think it's interesting because I know when Trump made changes to the EPA, it was as though the world were coming to an end.
Oh God, yes.
And
Oh,
when
yes.
he right, and when he moved the Department of Interior, God forbid, to the interior, it was also this massive cataclysmic event. And so that speaks volumes to me because these people that have gotten themselves entrenched in these so-called jobs and lifetime gravy trains, feeding at the trough of the largesse of the people, they have such an entitlement. They have such an air of entitlement. Like, how dare you touch our vaunted regulatory organization? And Trump is just gone.
Yeah, and they just get in the idea that, well, this is the way it is and it's got to be this way forever.
Yeah.
And and the bureaucracies bureaucracies always grow, right? That's one of the, and so we have now more general officers in the Department of Defense, flag rank officers. So in other words, generals, admirals. We have more than we had at the height of World War II.
Wow.
So we had, I think, at the height of World War II, in excess of 12 million men and women under arms.
Okay.
In the midst of a world war. And somehow we managed to fight that war and win that war with less generals and admirals than we now have for a force that's maybe a sixth of the size, a seventh of the size.
Wow.
So with all respect for the folks in uniform, I wore the uniform. My dad was a career military officer. My son's a wounded vet, served in Afghanistan, etc. That's my family. Why do we need all of these generals and admirals? Because half of these people are commanding offices of like 6 people. I mean, in other words, he's not commanding an infantry division of 20,000 people. He's a general. Sure. He's got like 3 staff folks working for him. I'm pretty sure like some lieutenant colonel could do that job. The point is, we're out of whack, right? But why do we need? And that same kind of mentality is everywhere. I used to come home from the field in the agency, and we'd be working 16-hour days, 7 days a week, and running around trying desperately to run ops and keep people from getting blown up. And you'd walk back into headquarters and walk across a parking lot through 5,000 cars to a building and walk into the building in the middle of the day and find every seat in the cafeteria filled at 2:00 in the afternoon with people drinking coffee. I don't understand. Something seems a little out of whack here, man. The
Yeah.
tooth to tail ratio is all. There's a certain X number of people downrange trying to keep the world from blowing
Yeah.
up, and a bunch of people back here in front of computer monitors doing PowerPoint presentations. I don't think we probably
Wow.
could get rid of a bunch of them, right?
Right, right. Yeah, that would be the ultimate riff. I think that it's interesting too because one of the big things that Trump has been leading up to is an elimination of income tax, personal income tax,
Yeah.
which was floated the other night during his rally at Madison Square Garden. I think it was Cantor, the head of Cantor Fitzgerald.
hmm You are frozen to me on my end for a moment, if you can hear me.
You're back. I
All
don't
right.
know. I don't know what happened. Okay,
We were
so
both we were both staring into space for a while.
we were
I
we were
thought you
talking.
had amazing muscle control. You're like, good God, she hasn't moved.
Oh god, it's like Kamala when the teleprompter goes out.
Well, I was trying to figure out, should I start tap dancing or is she coming back any second?
That you just disappeared. Okay, so so I was talking about tariffs and income tax, and basically, the people who think that we need to have continued income tax, personal income tax, which I don't think is constitutional. Um, they're saying this can't be sustainable. We can't fund the government. Well, you can fund the government if those people aren't there.
Yeah,
If you can
that's right.
fund, you can. It's like if you have a household budget, you can actually fund your budget if you're not paying $1,000 a month in a car payment for an extra car you don't need, or for $10,000 a year for vacations that you don't need. That's how you trim the budget. And we are paying for these extra people that Sam just described. We don't need those people. They are extraneous. If you look at Washington, D.C., and what's called the Beltway, if you've ever been around there, all of Northern Virginia and Western Maryland and going into Eastern Maryland, that is pretty much just an overflow of the federal government. And
Yep.
those people are living off of your tax dollars, pushing paper and designing PowerPoints for jobs that shouldn't even exist. So, that's where we are with that. And I have no problem getting those people off the payroll. I also have no problem getting rid of people who came to our country illegally and who are getting government handouts in to the tune of billions of dollars a year. Um, it's insane how much
Yep.
money we're spending on people that broke the law to get here, right?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think what Trump is saying, and again, Trump is shorthand for what the whole movement is saying, is
Yeah,
stop telling us that the government is a given. Like, we got all these agencies, we got all these
right.
people, and then we must find a way to fund them. Like, let's just stop. Just break the whole paradigm here. The
Mhm.
first question is, what government do we need or want? And then we'll figure out how to pay that. And the answer to the first question is one heck of a lot less government than we have now,
Yeah.
right? Not only is it grossly inefficient, but in many cases, in ways that people don't even think about, horribly oppressive. Before we get to locking up Steve Bannon, my friend,
Yeah. Yeah.
just on day-to-day basis. So in Pennsylvania right now, what do we have? The federal government rewrote Title IX, which is supposed to protect women, but they're going to use it as a cudgel to force you to put
Yeah.
boys on girls' sports teams and boys in your girls' locker room. Okay. And now they've pushed it out to the states and down to the school districts. Now you stop and think, okay, well, like in the state of Pennsylvania, school districts are run by local school boards. And what the heck does the federal government have to do with that? I mean, we're supposed to have complete
Right.
autonomy, actually, to a large extent, even from Harrisburg. The local school board, elected by the local people, they run your school. Okay, but what's the catch? The catch is the feds take a whole bunch of your money that they suck up to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Then they, of course, a large portion of it just goes to running the machine. But then
Right.
they start to hand you back grants, they call them, for various purposes at schools. Now, think how sick this
Right.
is. They took your money, they took about half of it away just to pay for the machine. And now, for the privilege of giving you back your money so you can use it in your schools,
Yeah.
they attach conditions.
Yes.
So if you don't do what they tell you to do and change your policies to comply
Mm-hmm.
with Title IX, they won't give you the grant. In other words,
Right.
they won't give you back your money unless you do it the way you're told. So they
Mm-hmm.
will technically, legally, still you have control over your school, but they'll
Right.
decide whether you get this money. So in effect, they now control
Mm-hmm.
your school. Okay, well, none of that should exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
None. That whole
Right.
every
Yeah.
person involved in that apparatus of taking your money away, writing policies on issues that ought to be up to local people to decide, and then force feeding it to you, every one of those folks ought to be unemployed,
Mm-hmm.
right? We shouldn't have
Yeah.
any apparatus like
Yeah.
that.
We saw also during COVID, we saw this happening with
Of course.
Department of Health and Human
Yes.
Services. They were the ones that were forcing schools and colleges to mask
Yep.
kids and to keep them masked well beyond the time that even states or localities were mandating it. It was insane. And
Yep.
it's because of what you're saying, these schools were being held ransom by this organization that was threatening to withhold money and, in some cases, to pull back money that had already been allocated to the schools. That's
Yep.
really the criminal element here. You've got these. It's basically like a cartel. And
Yeah.
they're holding these organizations hostage. We see this in the medical space as well,
Yes.
that the insurance companies are running things, and a lot of them are also subsidized. Medicare. I mean, I have friends who run medical practices, and the amount of power that Medicare wields over the decisions that they make and the way that they run their business is tremendous. I mean, even to the point of withholding reimbursements when the practice happens to make too many claims, right? And they
That's
just
right.
decide arbitrarily that you filed too many claims under this EIN, and therefore we are no longer reimbursing you. Like, what? We saw these patients, we treated them, and now you're withholding the money. So again, it's just and it's in so many cases arbitrary that somebody decides. Like, here's an example: when Trump ordered large stockpiles of a certain medication in
Mhm.
March of 2020 that was meant to be a prophylactic against the
Sure.
virus, there was one person in one department who made the decision to slow walk the distribution and to push it into a hospital setting, and so that the only way you could get it is if you were already hospitalized. I don't know if people realize that. And so
Right.
even though he ordered all of that, that decision was made by one person. And going back to the resistance that you're talking about, for example, in the agency, this is what he's facing. And I've said this all along: when you expect Trump to drain the swamp, people who criticize him and say, "Oh, he
Mhm.
didn't really drain the swamp." It's like, you can't control all of these people. And the State Department alone has more employees than a lot of entire countries. I
Yeah.
don't think people realize that, how big it is. Um, and so, you're dealing with this behemoth of people who are dug in and who base their decisions off of political ideologies that in many cases are incredibly twisted. Is that a good explanation?
Yeah, you're 100% right. And this
Okay.
is what back, we were talking about this a little earlier. So you need to bring in a whole bunch of people that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they also have to be people who believe in the cause, looking for a
Yes.
simplistic way to put it. So not
Yes.
just you understand how whatever department works, but you're committed to the principles we're talking about.
Yes.
And then those individuals have to go to war.
Right.
You understand that, you're not talking about taking over the FBI and saying, let's appoint a commission and study this problem for 6 months and then give us some recommendations, and then we'll see about revising some regulations. In other words, we're not talking about anything gradual or incremental. I'm not talking about being stupid, and I'm not suggesting that there isn't a lot of work that will have to happen because on detail work, for lack of a better way to put it. But you're going to have to walk in, figuratively speaking, with a baseball bat to these agencies.
Yeah.
You're going to have to tell people on the top floor of the building, here's some cardboard boxes, pack your stuff and get out.
I can't wait to see that. And you know what? I would love it if the media, if the real media, like people like me, were invited in to film this and to live stream it, because that's what they did to Roger Stone, right? That's what they're doing to Rudy Giuliani. That's what they're doing to Peter Navarro. That's what they did to Steve Bannon. And I want the people, I want the public to see this. I want to
the
see.
public needs to know, and it needs to be dramatic. And I'm not trying to be silly, and I'm not trying to be cartoonish.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the magnitude of what you're talking about now. And I was saying this to somebody in the context of a discussion about how to manage this the other day. And I said, if you have the political will, the political will is the issue. As long you're going to have to break a lot of China and understand that you're going to get significant pushback, and you have to have the political will, and obviously you have to have the president of the United States standing behind you. Then the challenge, of course, will be, as much as we are infuriated by what the Bureau has done, to stick with that analogy, over the last X number of years, we still actually need a federal investigative service. We don't need one focusing on people who oppose abortion, or people silently praying outside abortion clinics, or hunting down domestic adversaries. But it would be nice to have a Federal Bureau of Investigation who could find Iranian assassination teams on U.S. soil trying to kill Donald Trump. So after you break that seems like that ought to be a priority. I get it that they're busy with Moms for Liberty.
Okay, Captain Obvious.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, so after you fire all those guys and break a bunch of stuff, this is why you need people that have actually been there.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we got to put it back together right.
Right.
No, we're not chasing Moms for Liberty anymore. And all this domestic violent extremism entire wing can go away. But yes, you guys that are supposed to keep terrorists out of our country need to actually work for a living and go do stuff. And that's, and meanwhile, in the midst of this, you're going to have the people who just want to sabotage everything you're doing.
That makes sense.
And there will be a lot of blood on the floor. Again, metaphorically speaking, for the record.
Yes, just this is satire.
Exactly.
We're not advocating for
people probably think we're silly when we do that, but having had people clip things that I've said down 2 seconds out of context.
Absolutely. I mean, especially like on YouTube, they're so delicate. They're such pearl clutchers over there.
Well, have long known that I am I guess, am I a Nazi? I don't know if I've yet been called a Nazi. I know I'm a domestic violence extremist.
Are you? I'm an insurrectionist. They call that's what they call me.
I'm probably one of them. That's a cool,
for sure.
Actually, insurrection is kind of a cool title.
You know what? Yeah, because my DAR ancestors were too.
Yeah, I think we all came from insurrection.
Yeah, we did. So I'm very happy about that. I wear it with honor. And speaking of insurrection, this is very funny. I was on Facebook. Facebook runs ads on my videos, And somebody told me yesterday that Facebook was running a Kamala Harris ad on one of my videos. And I am absolutely in love with that idea. And I wanted to ask all of my listeners, whenever you watch my videos, watch them over and over again. And I'll tell you why. Because think about the beautiful irony of the Harris campaign hiring ad people to run ads and to target audiences that they think will be likely voters, and picking the Mary Grace show as a target audience.
Not particularly well thought out
This is
campaign, was that?
right. It's a beautiful thing. I've run Facebook ads. It's not that hard to find a target audience. I mean, you like import your email list. They make it pretty easy. And the fact that they are targeting you as a potential Harris voter is a beautiful thing. We'll take their money all day long because our channel gets ad revenue when they run those stupid ads. This is what the Bible calls the wealth transfer from the wicked to the righteous. They are literally so stupid that they're wasting ad money on you. So when you see that, just play the video over and over and over again. Just like when you go to Google and you see a competitor running an ad, you click their ad and use up their ad budget. That's what's happening when you watch my videos and you see a Harris Waltz advertisement on that video. Please hit replay when you get to the end of the video and make them pay for ad after ad after ad. You can mute it. I don't care. Just force them to spend money on the Mary Grace show. That's even better almost.
That is beautiful.
Isn't
That
it?
is
I mean,
beautiful.
I want you to understand. I know some people get mad when they see those ads, but I want you to understand that this is actually like divine intervention. These people are literally wasting their money, and it's that much more money that won't go into the ad accounts or into the revenue of the actual leftist channels. I mean, it's amazing that they're doing this. And I just think that it's a prime example of just how dumb they are. I love it. I love it. So Sam,
Yeah.
believe it or not, we're coming up on the hour.
All right.
And I think that I want to give you a chance. I want to give you a chance to give everybody some parting wisdom, parting encouragement. You're so good at that. But before we do that, I want to tell you that a lot of our listeners today are saying that they're praying for you, praying for the folks up in Pennsylvania. And I wanted to thank everybody on all of our platforms for doing that. We do need it. Being on the front lines, it's not easy, but it's what we're called to do. So I appreciate the prayers. Sam appreciates the prayers. We definitely do. All the people in our orbit that we're communicating with every day, all of the prayers really make a difference. And please do pray for Steve Bannon as he re-enters after what he's been through with the prison sentence that he had. But anything else, Sam, you want to help us end with today?
Well, I appreciate all that. And I was saying to somebody else, to Gwen Fowler, who I think you know, who is a young lady who's a videographer who travels around on her own dime all over Pennsylvania. We were talking about something we were just doing in Hazleton with the coalition the other day, and she was thanking me for what I did. And I said, hey, because it's not me, man, it's a team, but also, and I mean this very genuinely, one of the greatest things about this fight has been all the people that you meet along the way. That includes you. You just meet a lot of amazing people. And if your faith in America needs restored, that's what it'll do it. I mean, and it is hard when you go through these long, dark days, and many of us have been doing this for years, it's easy to get discouraged. Let's put it that way. It's easy to get down. And, you start thinking, well, am I kidding myself that at the end of this is victory? Well, you're not kidding yourself, and we haven't been kidding ourselves. And I mean, you were talking about Tulsi Gabbard, who used to be co-chair of the Democratic National. National
She
Committee.
campaigned for Bernie Sanders.
Campaign for Bernie Sanders, is now a Republican and campaigning with Trump and has endorsed Trump and Elon Musk
Yeah.
and RFK Jr. and all of these people. And, I'm in the Hispanic community talking to people.
Amazing.
And you got, I mean, when I was talking the other night, we were working through translators to give you an idea of the community, because a lot of these people were born and abroad and came relatively recently, and their English is still limited. And these people are fired up. The room is decorated with Trump signs, and the head pastor in the room, when we're all done, is praying over everyone and telling them, get behind Trump. I mean, it's happening. So again, don't go home and sit on the couch, put on the boob tube and start eating Cheetos and chill out. Finish the race.
Yes.
And then you can eat the Cheetos, although I would recommend against it afterward. But the point is, we're winning.
Yeah.
So pour it on, and we really are winning. And that's a lot of people, and that's God, and that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
But we are winning. That is where we are. I just heard earlier today, Kamala is apparently pulling all of her ad buys in North Carolina, and there's buzz that she's getting ready to do that in Nevada. What that translates to, folks, is she's quitting in those key states.
And hopefully Virginia's in play.
Virginia is the surmise is that she needs to get that money to Virginia because they are terrified they're going to lose it.
Yeah.
She's going to lose PA.
We have a candidate for Senate in Virginia, Hung Cao. He is Vietnamese.
Very familiar with him.
And yes, he is he was a refugee from the Vietnam War. And the Vietnamese community is in love with Trump, especially in Virginia, because we had a senator in the Virginia Senate she was the one that proposed the full birth abortion. She was Vietnamese, Kathy Tran, and the Vietnamese community excommunicated her because of her stance on that. And it really, it backfired, because it fired them up big time in favor of Trump. And now they actually, to the point where they have a candidate who is Vietnamese. So in Virginia, if you're in Virginia, vote early. I'm planning to take my dad to vote tomorrow. And vote early, bring everybody you can to vote, and do not stay home, no matter what. Don't give up, because we are so close. Same thing in Pennsylvania. And a shout out again to all of our Pennsylvania friends, our Erie friends up there. You guys are doing amazing work. You're also doing incredible.
You got to be nice to Erie, because they give me beer whenever I go up there.
They're amazing. And they've also, I'm just going to give them a little bit of kudos, because they sent a fully loaded semi down to North Carolina with donations.
Yes,
and I just want to, you guys know who you are. And thank you for doing that. That's amazing. And I think they're working on another load. I actually got them in contact with one of our folks down who's working boots on the ground, who has some organizations. So they've got some very specific needs that they're filling now, which is amazing. So thank you again to all of our Erie, PA folks. It's Trump country up there.
Yes, it is.
So we're very thankful for you. To all of you who are listening, please remember to share this. Please remember to follow the channel. This is the Mary Grace Show. I'm Mary Grace, the voice of sanity, to help you navigate politics, culture, faith, and world events. We will be back here on this channel on all of the platforms that you're watching on. We will be back for sure on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. with another great interview with our friend Dr. Troy Sproul, functional medicine doctor. And we also will be back on Sunday for a very important broadcast at 1 p.m. Eastern with one of your favorite people, whose name shall not be mentioned because you know why. But please set your reminders for that. You're not going to want to miss it, especially because it's going to be the election victory, pre-victory edition. Thanks again, Sam Faddis. It's always wonderful to have you here. We really, really appreciate you. And I'm sure we'll be in touch in the next week or so as things come down to the wire. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.